Welcome back. So the reason why I didn't do a news of the week episode on Saturday was it was kind of a bit of a slow news week last week where there wasn't really a lot of news to talk about, and that the news that I actually put down on my notebook and then later put it here on the board when I do a news of the week episode. Well, I think I only wrote down like 4 news topic on my notebook for the weekend edition of news of the week, and I thought just talk about 4 news topic in the news of the week on Saturday was just probably not worth it, and that I decided to kind of save those news topic and talk about it in today's news of the week episode. And also, since we are now getting into the part where the preseason is pretty much at its peak and pretty much we are getting closer now to the regular season, I expect there probably isn't going to be as much news and transfer rumors as we're going to hear when the off season was really getting going, and that obviously when we do get into the regular season, we're going to go back to just doing the one news of the week episode that I usually do every Wednesday. Now, speaking of the regular season, it's finally happened. So after pretty much for these past couple of weeks where everybody's been asking MLS when exactly are they going to release the full schedule, it happened today. And in some way, I should have said last week where I kind of predicted that the schedule was going to release this week, because when you look at the past couple of years and the way how when the league decided to release their season opener, it's usually 2 weeks later after they release the season opener that they basically announce the full schedule. And it's been 2 weeks since the season opener was announced, and if we keep that pattern, this means that the schedule should be released this week, and therefore it seemed like the league keep that trend where officially today the schedule of course have released, and of course tomorrow I will do my annual video, talk about the Quake schedule and look at who exactly they are going to be facing throughout the season. And you know how in that season opener announcement when I talk about how I was excited that some of the matchup is actually not just going to be regional matchup, and it's going to be some matchup that has like these cross country kind of matchup where teams from the West Coast face against team in the East Coast. And I thought maybe things are started to kind of return to normalcy in terms of this regular season. Yeah, no, unfortunately, when I look at the schedule and specifically look at the Quake schedule, they do have 2 Eastern Conference teams that they're going to be facing this season in DC United and Orlando City. But that's pretty much it. Like that's the only 2 teams that they're going to be facing in the Eastern Conference. The rest of the team are pretty much from the Western Conference, and once again looks like we are going to be playing majority of the game that is against opponents that is in the region that the Quakes are in. So teams like the LA teams, Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver, we're going to be playing against them 3 times this season, which in some way this kind of goes back to a couple of years ago when MLS wasn't at the point where they had that many teams, and usually teams are playing against their Western Conference full 3 times, and that of course is pretty much the case. Well, it seemed like it's now the case again, and I get the reason why they decided to do this, because with this pandemic that is still going on, and I know the pandemic seems like it might be over because of the fact that the vaccine is kind of rolled out, but believe me, it's probably not going to be over. At least if you're optimistic, maybe it could be over in the summer, but if you want to be pessimistic, you might think that this pandemic might not be over until 2022. And there's no doubt this COVID thing is still going, even when the pandemic is over, this COVID thing is still going to be lingering in a lot of people's minds, and that I don't think we probably will not have normalcy return at the very earliest, probably next year when they of course once again announce the schedule for the 2022 season next year. But for this season, seems like there's going to be a lot of regional matchup, which I know a lot of people are not going to be happy about it, because I know last season when pretty much every single matchup was a regional matchup, people were kind of a little bit pissed off the fact that they basically played the same team almost every single week. And in my opinion, I agree with them in that, even as a neutral watching some of the games, and especially some of these rivalry games like Seattle versus Portland, I know Seattle versus Portland has always been, in my opinion, the best rivalry in MLS, but watching it like 4 and 5 times last season, it just kind of started to get a little bit old, and it just kind of started to we're off in terms of the fact that, when you have a rivalry game, usually the reason why it's such a big occasion is that they play like 1 or 2 times a year. But if you play like 3 or 4 or even 5 or 6 times during the regular season, then that occasion started to kind of linger a little bit, and it just feels kind of boring, the fact that they basically play against each other again in a regular season matchup. But moving on, in terms of the next news, besides the fact that the regular season schedule has been released, the League Cup kind of also released their schedule and their format of how they're going to have this year's competition. Now, the League Cup originally said that they were going to have 16 teams this season, and that they're going to have 8 MLS team and 8 Liga MX team coming into this season. Well, now they're going to reduce that back down to 8 teams, and it seemed like there's only going to be 4 MLS team that is going to be representing the League Cup this year, and 4 Liga MX team. And the way that they determine these 4 MLS team are pretty much the team that finish in the top two standing in the regular season that is not participating in the CONCACAF Champions League. And I think this is good, the fact that they decided to do this, because I was kind of concerned when they announced that there is going to be the League Cup this summer, and that if they are going to go to a point where they're going to choose like the top 4 teams in each of the conference, and we know there's going to be some teams in those conference that also have the CONCACAF Champions League, and since this year the CONCACAF Champions League is spread out throughout the whole year, there's going to be some fixture congestion that is going to happen. And I think the people that has organized the League Cup know that of course is the case, and to kind of reduce them to just kind of focus on a specific competition, they only choose the teams that of course are in the top part of the table last year in the regular season, but they are not participating in the CONCACAF Champions League this season. So those teams are Sporting KC, Seattle Sounders, Orlando City, and NYCFC will be representing MLS in this competition. Now, the Campeones Cup has also been announced, and that they, of course, announced that the game between the Columbus Crew versus Tigre FC that will be taking place at the new Crew Stadium will be taking place in September 27. Now, I believe that is a Monday that they're going to be facing off against each other. So, obviously, during that week, I think Columbus will be one of those teams that is not going to be played during that weekend's action, unless if the league decided to schedule Columbus to play on Thursday or maybe in Wednesday, so that they of course can play their MLS regular season game on that weekend's kind of day, and then they can also play the Campeones Cup that's going to be taking place on Monday in that one. So yeah, that should be a very interesting kind of game, and I know that game is going to be still a couple of months down the line, and we don't know exactly how both of these teams is going to look when that Campeones Cup does happen. But something tells me, looking at how Tigres has been doing this season in Liga MX, they haven't been doing very well so far this season, whereas Columbus, depending on if they are able to kind of do the same thing that they did last season, which is win all their home games and able to maybe get a couple of points on the road, and also hopefully not suffer kind of an injury crisis. Although, as I mentioned before with Columbus, it seemed like when you look at some of the signings that they made this offseason, they kind of prepare for that, knowing that if they do go through an injury crisis, at least they're going to have some decent backup to be filling those players that unfortunately is out for injury. So yeah, I definitely think that as of now, Columbus definitely has the edge over Tigres, but you never know. We'll see down the line whether or not if that is still the case. Now, moving on, in terms of the next news, is that there are sources saying that Sacramento most hated man Ron Burko will now move the Sacramento NWS team to San Diego, and this was kind of not a bit of a big surprise kind of announcement, because knowing the fact that the Sacramento NWSL team is pretty much owned by the Sacramento Republic, and it's unfortunate to see what happened with the Republic, and Ron Burko decided to pull out of being the lead investor, and now Sacramento is kind of in a limbo situation of whether or not if they are going to still go into MLS. It just feels like the NWSL team is probably going to be in jeopardy of probably not going to be playing in Sacramento, and it seemed like that is going to be the case. And it's such a shame, the fact that Sacramento is also not going to have an NWSL team, and in general, NorCal is once again going to kind of be ignored in the NWSL market, because I really think this upcoming season, they finally understand that there is clearly some interest in California in terms of the NWSL, and they finally put a team down in Southern California. But I also feel like there's even more if there's even equal or even more interest here in Northern California for NWSL, and I think Northern Clearly should be another market where the NWSL really need to target if they want to maybe get even more rating that is happening in their league. So this definitely is going to be a little bit of a blow for fans that is fans of the NWSL, and hope that there is going to be a team in Northern California. But you never know. Maybe this could be a advantage for the Quakes, or even maybe in the Bay Area, where somebody eventually is going to maybe come up with a way to be a lead investor of an NWSL team and finally bring an NWSL team in Northern California. Because again, I think there is definitely a lot of potential that an NWSL team, if they decided to have a team in Northern California, it would definitely help in terms of the support and also the ratings of this league. Now, moving on, Toronto FC president Bill Manning has signed with a 5-year contract, and this came just a week after they decided to lock their GM Ali Curtis to a long-term contract. So you can clearly see that TFC, they are happy with their front office, and also the people that is higher up in the front office. And why wouldn't they? I mean, this team has been one of the more successful team in MLS for the past couple of years, has been pretty much appearing in MLS Cup almost every single year, and there is not a big surprise that TFC are very happy of what Bill Manning has done to this team, and has really kind of turned the fortune of this TFC team, where with all the success that TFC has been going through for the past couple of years, people forget that when this team came into the league, at least for the first couple of years, they were really the laughing stock of the league, and they were a team that just struggled to really do anything and even compete for a playoff position in the Eastern Conference. But ever since Bill Manning, of course, and also TFC have done a great job in terms of getting some people that know how to run a successful MLS team. That is the reason why TFC have really started to become a team that has been a force in MLS, and also the fact that there are people in that front office that is willing to spend the money to able to invest in this team in order to make them a successful MLS team. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and now talk about signings that has happened in this past weeks. Well, it's official. Inter Miami has officially signed Kieran Gibbs from West Brom, and it seemed like he is going to be actually joining Inter Miami somewhere around the end of May, I believe, once the Premier League season is over, and that he's going to be joining Inter Miami on a free transfer. Now, they also signed Kelvin Leerdam and also gave Seattle up to $150,000 general allocation money in a trade offer here. And I think, getting Kelvin Leerdam to Inter Miami and only paying $150,000 general allocation money is an absolute steal. Like, I really love this guy when he was really a big part of the defense for the Sounders and in the back line. And this just clearly seems like maybe a Chris Henderson kind of signing, where he's trying to bring some of his old boys from the Seattle Sounders to Inter Miami. And that I think Kelvin Leerdam, even though he is started to be a little bit older, he is definitely going to help booster this back line for Inter Miami. But that being said, talking about the Kieran Gibbs signing, again, I just don't understand why are they signing another player that has injury concern and has just been way past his prime from a couple of years ago. And the fact that there is now even rumors saying that they potentially are going to sign Marcelo in the summer. Well, if they decide to sign Kieran Gibbs and also sign Marcelo, then who is exactly going to play that fullback position or that left back position? Are they going to just put Marcelo there and put Kieran Gibbs as a backup? Because if that's the case, they also have some good option in terms of that position too. So I feel like this is kind of like a bit of a waste of money, and that this kind of feels like similar to what I said about the Ryan Shawcross signing, where yes, a couple of years ago, if they would have signed Ryan Shawcross, or if a couple of years ago they signed Kieran Gibbs from Arsenal, then yeah, it makes sense. But with the injury issue that has really dampened both of those players' career, it just kind of doesn't make any sense that they are, of course, getting these guys. But then again, this team is owned by David Beckham, and again, this is when you're owned by David Beckham, don't be surprised that not only you're going to link with pretty much everybody around the world, but you're probably also going to get a couple of guys from the Premier League that might seem like an outcast and also have injury concern, but come on down to Inter Miami and come on down to MLS. This might be a place where you can basically revitalize your career. I don't know if that exactly is exactly the case, but we shall see whether or not if Kieran Gibbs is able to do well with Inter Miami and hopefully stay off the IR table. Now, NYCFC have signed U.S. Youth International Chris Gloucester and give the Red Bulls up to $400,000 general allocation money for his homegrown rights, which I think that is the most money that a team has to pay to another team in order to get them their homegrown rights. And for Chris Gloucester, he is a player that formerly came out of the Red Bulls Academy, went to Europe and actually signed with PSV, and also was playing for the B team for PSV. He did made a couple of appearances for the team, but eventually you kind of had a feeling that things were kind of not working out for him, and that his chances of potentially maybe even play for PSV is probably not going to be that good, and that it kind of makes sense the fact that he should just go back to MLS to kind of maybe develop his career in MLS, and then basically making that jump to Europe and hope that maybe there's another good team that could potentially purchase him in Europe in the future. So yeah, we shall see whether or not if he's going to do so with NYCFC. Although one concern I do have with this signing is that he is a left back, which means that this is another left back and another fullback that NYCFC have signed this offseason, and they must have like 6 or 7 players on the depth chart that currently plays in the fullback position for NYCFC. And again, it just doesn't make sense, the fact that they have that many players in terms of the fullback position, when it's pretty clear that when you look at their roster, not only this roster is still kind of paper thin when you look at other part of the field, but there's definitely some position where they are in desperate needs this season, and yet they didn't really quite kind of address this offseason besides adding a lot of depth in terms of the fullback position. And again, I know I said before that adding depth in terms of a position is never a bad thing, but when you do it just like if you just focus like one position throughout the entire offseason and you just keep adding depth in terms of that specific position, and you don't add depth in terms of the other position that you had on your roster, yeah, that could be an issue for you for this upcoming season. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and now moving into the transfer rumors. So, there seems to be a little bit of a saga going on with Atlanta United, and also potentially getting themselves sell their another Argentine defender, and that I kind of mentioned last week that they were looking to trying to get Independiente defender Alan Franco, and that the saga really kind of began there, where it was first a report that they were of course going to sign him from Independiente, but then a couple of days later it seems like the deal was off, and that there was numerous reports saying that Independiente is not willing to sell Alan Franco and not willing to let him go to MLS. And then a couple of days later, it says that it seemed like both sides have agreed to a deal. So it was kind of like conflicting reports of of whether or not exactly is he actually going to be going to MLS, or is he actually going to be staying for Independiente. And as I'll also mention a little bit later in this news of the week, he is not the only player that has been kind of going through this little transfer rumor saga where the deal looks like it was on and then it was off and then now it's on again. And it seemed like the deal right now is on again, with the reported deal being $2.8 million and a 50% sell on fees if Atlanta United decide to agree on this deal. And I think this is a decent deal for Atlanta to agree on. I mean, $2.8 million is definitely a little steep in terms of signing for a defender, but knowing the fact that this is Atlanta United and that this team has bunch of money and are not afraid to spend big even on their defender, I won't be surprised if they're going to eventually reach this deal, and that, if he does this deal does happen, then yeah, I think that he could definitely be a decent defender once he comes to the league. Now, another thing that will even add more into this transfer saga is that I think yesterday I heard there was a report saying that he was going to come to the U.S., but unfortunately, it looks like he contacted COVID-19, and it seems like he's now under isolation. Now, they said that this doesn't really affect in terms of this transfer, but judging by the fact that this transfer rumor has gone through so many twists and turn and so many question of whether or not exactly is he even going to be going to Atlanta, I won't be surprised that the way that they said that, well, he has COVID-19, but this is not going to affect in terms of him potentially signing for Atlanta. It's just a way for them to say, yeah, we know it's been kind of crazy in terms of the twist and turn of how this rumor has gone, so we'll just kind of calm you down by not even adding more fuel into this saga and add in more confusion of whether or not if this signing is going to happen or not. But all I'll say is we'll see how this will turn out, and we'll see whether in the upcoming days when Atlanta United maybe will make the official announcement that they sign Alan Franco from Independiente. Now, speaking of Atlanta United, their former interim head coach Stephen Glass is going to get a chance to become a manager of a team, and he's actually going to become the manager of the team that Atlanta currently partners with, which is Aberdeen FC in the Scottish Premier League. And all I'll say is that good luck to Stephen Glass. And actually, it's not the Scottish Premier League; it's the Scottish Premiership, that is. But all I'll say is good luck for him. Hopefully, he does well with Aberdeen, and hopefully, he does much better than what Frank de Boer did today when he, of course, is managing the Netherlands, and in his first game. And for those of you that did not watch that game, yeah, it did not go well for Frank de Boer in terms of his debut with the Dutch national team, and they got absolutely thrashed in that World Cup qualifying game against Turkey this morning. Minnesota United is reported to close to sign Boca Juniors striker Ramon Abila, and this is another one of those signings that I mentioned earlier where there seems like a twist and turn in terms of this transfer rumor, and that it seemed like there's been numerous conflict reports saying that this deal looks like it was on, and then it looks like it wasn't going to happen, and now it looks like it's going to happen again. And it seemed like, from what I heard, is that Minnesota might be paying around $4.5 million, and something similar to how the amount that they paid Emmanuel Reynoso a couple of months ago to come to Minnesota. Now, one thing I am a little bit concerned about Ramon Abila, that is, I can't pronounce his name for some reason there, but the thing that I am a little bit concerned with Ramon Abila is that he does have history of injury, and that he is starting to get into his 30s. And when you are a striker that is now into your 30s and you also have injury concern, yeah, you are just going to kind of continue to go in a decline. And the last thing I want is for Minnesota to sign a guy that has injury concern, and especially he plays in the number 9 position, because I know last year there is this guy called Luis Amarilla, and how he was supposed to be a promising number 9 and supposed to be our future number 9, and look what happened with injury that kind of eventually his career with Minnesota, and that the Loons decide not to stick with him. So yeah, I just feel like, I know the Loons are desperate in terms of signing a number 9, and I've been saying throughout this offseason, this is the one spot that the Loons have to address if they want to be be back to the level that they were last year and go want to get themselves back to the Western Conference Final. But are they desperate? Are they so desperate right now that they are maybe going to pay a lot of money for a guy that has injury concern and is started to head to a decline. Now, on the other hand, since he is a Boca Junior player, if he does come to Minnesota, then he will instantly form that good partnership with Reynoso, because I believe before, when Reynoso came to Minnesota, he was also playing alongside Ramon Abila, and I'm pretty sure both of them probably they have a good relationship with each other, and that could be a great 1-2 kind of dynamic attack that the Loons could be having for this upcoming season. But the thing that does make me a little bit concerned about us signing him is we pay a premium amount of money for a guy that is already in his 30s, and also for a guy that has had numerous injury concern for the past couple of seasons. But now moving on in terms of the next news, and unfortunately I have a little bit of a sad news to talk about, and this actually happened a couple of days ago. But LAFC 3252 supporter group VP Maurizio Facio unfortunately passed away from COVID-19, and certainly the MLS media saw this news, and they definitely react to how sad that this, of course, happened. And we've seen so many times this season, and well, not this season, but this past year, of a lot of people that has passed away from COVID-19, and this definitely must have hurt in terms of the LAFC fan base, and especially the 3252 supporter group, to lose one of their more important members of their supporter group. So yeah, I definitely want to share my condolence to his family, and hope that they are doing well in terms of going through this tough time, and unfortunately losing their loved one from COVID-19. But now moving on to a little bit more happier news, is that FC Cincinnati last week have showcased a light show for their new West End Stadium. And for those of you that haven't actually watched this, I recommend you guys to watch this light show, because you remember how when Minnesota, when they first opened Allianz Field, and they kind of did a light show of showcasing their LED kind of aluminum exterior that they have, and we thought it was absolutely amazing, and it was something that we have never seen in MLS before. And I'm obviously very happy to be able to support a team that has just probably the one, if not the best stadium, and a world-class kind of MLS stadium to play with. Well, I feel like after watching this light show for FC Cincinnati, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like that light show is even more epic than what Minnesota did with their light show when they showcased the opening of Allianz Field, because they not only show color outside of their exterior, but they also show like image, and kind of like almost 3D kind of image of their exterior. And that, when I first look at that stadium before, I already was blown away, but after watching that light show, and if that's gonna how the exterior of that stadium is going to look like, I'll tell you what, when I do my power rankings of looking at each MLS stadium and which MLS stadium I think is the best stadium in the league, I think West End Stadium is right now the best stadium in the league. Like that light show was just absolutely amazing, and in some way their exterior, in terms of the ability to light up, seems much better than what Allianz Field was a year ago. But yeah, and also I can't wait that when this whole pandemic is going to be over, and hopefully I can start to travel again, that not only the fact that Allianz Field will be one stadium is on the top of my list in terms of attending a game, but if FC Cincinnati and Minnesota is playing at home on the same week, and depending on the schedule, I might actually go to Allianz Field first, and then quickly fly down to Cincinnati to attend an FC Cincinnati game, because after all, Minneapolis and Cincinnati is not really that far apart from each other. But also it depends on the schedule, and that the only way for that to work out is that either if Minnesota play their home game on Saturday and that FC Cincinnati played their home game on Sunday, or the other way around, or even maybe in the midweek action where both of these teams pretty much both have home games, but they have to play in a separate kind of day. And then finally, Orlando City becomes the first MLS team to have its own live stream platform, and I believe their live stream platform is called Lions Nation TV, and this live stream platform is going to be free for their premium member and also season ticket holder of Orlando City. And I believe they're also going to be showcasing not only the shows about Orlando City, but they are actually going to be broadcasting all the games through that Lions Nation TV. And I'm happy to see that Orlando City becomes the first team to do so, because right now, at least for the last couple of seasons, I know there's been a lot of teams and a lot of fans have been very frustrated in terms of the broadcast rights of their teams had. And I know last year there was a lot of difficulty with the St. Clair broadcast group, where all the teams that show their game on Fox Sports regional network, a lot of fans cannot watch those games if they actually have a cord cutter. And I know it might not seem like a big deal that they're not showing those game on a cord cutter, and that Sinclair is not able to broadcast those games like on Hulu TV or even YouTube TV. But knowing the fact that nowadays it seemed like cord cutting is started to be a new thing, and cable was kind of started to be a trend that is kind of a little bit now a bit old-fashioned, and that as more people started to use more cord-cutting streaming service, this is definitely devastating for a lot of fans that is unable to watch their favorite team to play. And that another example of this is that I remember when Minnesota, of course, they currently broadcast their game on Fox Sports North, and I know last year there was a lot of Loons supporters that was very angry the fact that Fox Sports North is not on a lot of those cord cutter platform, and a lot of those fans weren't even able to watch any of their team favorite game, because the team has the specific broadcast they're from their regional network, and that unfortunately that regional network has some limitation in terms of only able to be on TV if you of course have cable, and in some cases only a limited amount of cord cutter platform has that broadcast. So yeah, it's great to see that Orlando City is not going to have that issue. And if you're an Orlando City fans, I mean, I guess maybe the only thing that some people might not like about this is that you might have to pay a subscription on this, and I believe it's $60 per year if you want to subscribe to Live Nation TV, which I don't think it's that much of a amount. And again, if you're a season ticket holder of Orlando City, or even a premium member of Orlando City, you basically get that for free, and you basically get that for without any extra charge. So again, I still think that's definitely a better deal compared to the difficult situation with a lot of these teams that is shown on a St. Clair broadcast network and show their game on Fox Sports regional network, and there's been a lot of complication in terms of fans able to watch their game because of these regional network unavailable on a cord cutter. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for this week's news of the week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all these news? And as always, let me know in the comments below if there's any news I didn't mention that you want me to mention and should be here on this board. Let me know in the comments below. Tonight is going to be another day where I am going to be doing a review of the US versus Mexico game, and knowing the fact that it turns out Mexico did beat Costa Rica, and that both team now is going to be moving on into the semifinal of the Olympic qualifier. It's going to be interesting to see how that game is going to play out, and I'm going to be very interested to see what Jason Kreis is going to do with the squad, and whether or not if he is going to decide to rest some of his players for an even more important game in that semifinal against either Honduras or Canada, because that is the game that will really determine the fate of whether or not if the U.S. is going to be going to the Olympic this year, and later in these next couple of months in Tokyo. But yeah, I of course will watch that game tonight, and I of course will do a review of that game right after when the game is finished. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.